Well, hey folks, my name is Brad Martin, and today I'm up in the mountains of Vermont with my metal detector to see if we can find some treasure. The place that I'm hiking to right now, according to the landowner and some records they have, actually predates the chartering of this town by a good 30 or 40 years. Pretty optimistic we're gonna find some interesting things today. There's no trail, so I'm just following my GPS. Got about a half a mile to go. All right, well, according to my GPS point, the foundation should be right around here, and I guess this is it. As you can see, there's actually no stacked stone here, but as I had mentioned, according to the records the landowner has, there was a home here. Don't know much about the inhabitants, except they were here around the 1770s, and then they were gone by around 1830. Let's see if we can find a few things they lost while they lived here. Okay, I'm not sure what I have here. It appears to be a little circle of brass. I'm wondering if it's a knee buckle, but I haven't seen the inside yet. No, there's nothing in the inside. So typically on, the knee buckles that I found in the past, which is just a little buckle which would have been worn at the bottom hem of these high water pants folks used to wear back then. There'd be a couple little holes for a pin to go through, and this doesn't seem to have that, but it does have this interesting little dimple here. It's made out of a high quality brass. You can see the nice, even green patina on there. I was just looking at it again. I was wondering if it was part of a key. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. Pretty cool. So I've been finding a few buttons today, mostly old Tomback computer, but I just found a little brass one. And it's special because it's what's called a ball button. Very often the back shank area is missing because it is a two-piece design. Although the shank is broken, you can see that this little disc is still back here. So cool. Now, I know the larger ones are often military buttons. I'm not sure if these small little cuffs are also military buttons, but it's a cool find nonetheless, especially since it still has the back there. Probably a little bit newer than the other buttons I've been finding today, but so cool. So we find spoons all the time. I found one spoon handle today, and I find it interesting, and I don't know the reason why. Spoons are oftentimes made out of brass, or silver of course, but most of the time they're brass. Every once in a while we find an iron one, but forks are almost always iron in the late 1700s. But this one is in relatively good shape. I don't think I've ever found a two-prong fork that still has both prongs, and you can see here this would have been inserted into a handle instead of having scales like we often see. This is a very cool old eating utensil fork. Super cool. Well, this is not something that I've found before. Way back 1700s and early 1800s too, our cents, our 1 cent coins were large coppers, and oftentimes people would cut them in half to make half a cent. And I believe what I have here is actually a 1/4 cent. Certainly a quarter of something round. I think any text at all would help us identify it. Well, I can't say for sure, but this certainly does look like text around the rim here. And while I can't tell what coin it is, that's certainly indicative of a coin. So we have a 1/4 cent. I don't know what you could have bought with a 1/4 cent back then, but clearly something. That's pretty cool. Not valuable in and of itself, but the story that it tells of a time long ago when you could buy something with a 1/4 cent. Very, very cool. I think I probably say it this time of year every year in at least one video, but this has got to be my favorite time to be in the forest and the mountains because it's just coming to life right now. The birds are absolutely everywhere singing their songs. The spring ephemerals are popping up. Beautiful little flowers that only last a week or two. And the bugs
are starting to come out, but they're not too bad quite yet. They're going to get a lot worse, the mosquitoes and black flies in particular. Fortunately, this doesn't last very long. A few weeks, goes quick, and then these trees will be full on leaves, the bugs will be out, but that doesn't stop us. So far so good here. Let's see what else we can find.
Okay, well, I find, utensils pretty regularly. Every once in a while they'll have some of the scales still on there like this one does. And usually I don't show them because if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But as I was kind of wiping this one off, I noticed there's a maker's stamp right here, which is not something I see all the time. There's definitely text there, but I cannot out here make it out. Hopefully after I get it home. And what I find so interesting is, where did this come from? Did they buy it in a shop? Did they buy it from the maker themselves? Did they bring it from England or wherever it is they came from? Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out with that. I wish it was complete. It's just barely broken. And actually, I've never really seen one with a little pommel down here. Super cool. Well, that little brass circle that I found earlier may or may not be an old key. But this, check this out. That is absolutely a key. Wow, look at the pattern down here. That is awesome. That is so cool. So what do the keys this size go to? This is probably not a front door key. There was probably a cabinet or a treasure chest. No, probably a cabinet inside the house that this would have opened. That is so cool. And, we can't say for sure, but judging where we are and the other things we found so far today, I have to say this is very early 1800s at the latest. So cool. I love finding old keys. All right, well, we just got a kind of a interesting little thing here. I thought for sure it was going to be made out of brass, considering how it sounded on the metal detector. But this appears to be iron. And, if I had to guess, I would say this is probably horse tack of some kind. That's pretty cool. I'm sure folks who are familiar with, the harnesses of draft work and horses recognize this, but there are so many buckles and connectors and different things. I don't have them all memorized, but that's my guess. That's pretty cool. All right, well, I was really going to make a point today to try to film every target that sounded like really good ahead of time before digging it, and then we could dig it together. So I probably should have done it with this one, but it just had so much iron target in this area. I thought for sure it was going to be a nail or something, but you can probably see that it is most certainly not a nail. Not only is it not a nail, it looks like it's going to be in great condition, whatever kind of coin it is. It's quite heavy. Let's clean it off together here. I'll get my toothbrush. Well, this side actually doesn't look like it has a whole lot of... Oh no, I see it now. So if you've never seen one of these, it's probably hard to tell what this is, but you can see some leaves here, which would be the headpiece for a bust. Man, this is in great shape. There's the Britannia on the back. And we might get a date down here at the bottom. But you can see a left-facing bust. And on the right side here, barely make out a Connect. And over here is an octory. So this is a Connecticut state copper. And you can just make out at the bottom a 1786 Connecticut copper. Absolutely incredible. There are a ton of different varieties of this particular coin. This one appears to have been made out of a really nice brass because it's in great condition. This is such an awesome find.
I don't know what it is about finding these state coins like the Connecticut, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. It's something that I'm sure the vast majority of folks in the US don't even know existed. And it really just kind of transports you back to a time that you really wouldn't have thought about otherwise. A time before the US had their own currency and the states were making their own. Just such a cool piece of history. And you would think I would find more Vermont coppers. I've only ever found 2, and they're my prized possessions. Really, Connecticut was the most prolific with their coins. Find those not all the time, but more than any of the others. And I only have 2 left to complete my set, just New Jersey and a New York left. Maybe today's the day. We'll find out.
So I just found what I thought at first was a button, and then I took it out of the ground and I noticed it has this crazy long like tack out of this end. And I was sitting here thinking, gosh, what could this be? You know, is it like an upholstery tack, or what is it? It does appear to have like a material right here. And then so I, stuck my pinpointer back down in there to double check, and I found 4 more. And some of them have quite a bit of this, what appears to be leather, still on there. It's funny because if I were to find just one of these without that long pin, I would have no idea what it was, maybe just a button. But all of these all together with the length of this that's on here, this certainly seems like an upholstery tack for possibly like a chair with a leather seat. That's the first thing that comes to mind. This would have been tacked into wood and would have had a nice like brass tacked rail. So very cool. And it's easy to forget that even though folks lived up here away from civilization for the most part, they still brought along some creature comforts from down in town. Nice furniture. I suspect that's what this went to. Very, very cool. So this is a pretty cool find. Every once in a while I'll find ingots of different material. Brass, lead a lot, and this is an ingot of iron. And what I find particularly cool about this one is that you can see that it was heated up, broken off, and the rest of it was used to make something, repairing something. They would have had to have a forge here, anvil and all that stuff to make what they needed. Super cool. Extremely heavy. I'm not going to carry this in my bag all day. I'll set it up on a rock, let the landowner know where it is, and he can come retrieve it on a 4-wheeler or something if he wants it. Super cool. So I've been finding a lot of pieces of like tin pail. I don't know what it would be from. I assume there's probably like maple sugaring in this area, and some of these pails got left and decomposed or whatever. So there's just pieces of sheet metal everywhere. And I just got this little thing, and I was like, oh, when it came out, it's like, oh, it looks like the top rim of a pail. Just a fragment of a suspender. It does appear to be just a piece of one. It's not broken, but it looks like these little tabs would have fit into a much larger mechanism here to be a suspender clip. So that's pretty cool. That goes to show I have to be more careful when identifying things when they're coming out of the ground and just not assume. Pretty cool. Well, I don't know why I didn't get my camera out. It was a great target, but I'm pretty sure we have a coin here. It doesn't look like it's in great shape, but it is super thick, so I have to assume that it's a large set. And it's got some like rusting. It must have been in there with a piece of iron. Man, I don't know. It is very, very thick though. Let me rub this on my pants for a while. Well, I can't tell out here, unfortunately. It is caked with corrosion, but it's certainly an old copper coin. I wish we could tell what it is right now, but just have to wait till I get home, and then hopefully I can throw a picture of it up on the screen for you folks. But this is a welcome surprise for the day.
All right, folks, well, I am going to call it there. And what an incredible day it was. I would have had a blast even if I didn't have a metal detector, with the weather and the forest coming to life, but I found some pretty amazing things metal detecting today too. I only found 2 1/4 cents, but you really can't ask for a cooler 2 1/4 cents. The keys and stuff, so I got it all laid out here. Let's take a look and refresh our memories.
Man, so as slow as it was, and as hard as I had to work for all of these buttons, there's like 14 of them there. Only one big coat button, the rest are all little tiny little cuff buttons. A lead pewter one here, there's a couple tombacks in here, the rest are brass, and of course these 5, what I'm gonna call upholstery tacks, for probably a chair, I would guess. I did find a couple other utensil pieces here, but this is my favorite of the day. Although it is iron and just a simple fork, I've never found one quite like this, and I find it pretty interesting. My favorite finds for the day, I think, are what I'm calling a fragment of a key. It might not be, but this is obviously a key, and you know, the mechanism here is so interesting looking, and I think I'll be able to get that cleaned out, maybe with a little bit of rust remover. Maybe that's just dirt. And then of course, the coins for the day. This one I was able to scratch the front of, and you can now make out the right-facing figure of a draped bust. So this is a very early large cent, and this, of course, is the Connecticut copper. There is a barely legible date down there. This side is a little bit smoother than the back is, but you can make out the left-facing bust down there. And then our little quarter cent. Like I said, I've never found such a small piece of copper before. Usually they're half size. Super cool.
All right, folks. Well, I want to thank you for joining me on another adventure up here in the mountains of Vermont. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll join me next Friday for another new video looking for treasure. See you then.